7:10. I call the Charter Review Committee to order. My name is Dawn Anderson. I'm the town moderator, and this is a hybrid meeting. I'm going to take attendance by roll call. Nathaniel Bodion.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's Bodwin,
Bodwin. Thank you.
but there's a lot of vowels, I understand.
Okay. Mike Bruni.
Here.
Angelina Correa.
Here.
Skip Courier.
Here.
Bob DeToma.
Here.
Dan Fitzgerald.
Here.
Mark Haddad.
Here.
Jeffrey Hess.
Here.
Andy Jefferson.
Here.
John Kelly.
Here.
Jim Malloy.
Here.
Greg Marr.
Here.
Angela Roman.
Here.
And Dave Robbins.
Here.
Okay.
Looks like we have perfect attendance.
Come and sit with us. We have perfect attendance. You can sit right down here.
Right up here.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is the organization of the Charter Review Committee, and I just wanted to say a few things before we got started with that. I want to welcome everyone for coming. I am so thrilled with the level of response that we received for the Charter Review Committee, and I really do believe that this committee is going to be vital in examining our town's governing structure and recommending the changes or updates that we need to ensure that we continue to meet the evolving needs of our community. This review will ensure that the town's governance remains effective, transparent, and responsive to the needs of its residents. The committee has been tasked with assessing the provisions of the charter and making recommendations for potential revisions to improve the functioning of our government. My goal, which I was told was quite lofty, was to assemble a diverse group of 15 volunteers to ensure a broad range of perspectives were represented. Having received a total of 14 volunteers, I feel that I should have aimed higher. This committee is expected to attend regular meetings and participate in the review and recommendation process. The work will culminate in a report to the town council, and they will consider any proposed charter amendments. I want to thank you all for taking this opportunity to contribute to the future of the town and help shape its direction for the years to come. Now we have some housekeeping to attend to, which is the election of committee officers. My understanding was a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary, but I defer to those of you who have been down this road many other times. So I will take nominations for a chair of the Charter Review Committee.
Moderator, could we do introductions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's start back at the beginning. I had that and I skipped it. Nate, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hold on. Hello. Sorry, I have my daughter here.
Hi.
So my name is Nate Bodwin. I've lived in the town for about 4 years now. We moved in when my daughter was 4 weeks old, so she's about to be 4. I'm an attorney, but no specialty in municipal law. I was a prosecutor for about 9 years in Worcester County, and now I work for the trial court. Essentially, I work with like the Chief Justice, the other judges in central Massachusetts, and I advise them on like legal, ethical, and policy matters.
Thank you. Mike?
Hi, my name is Mike Bruni. I've been in Grafton since 2006. And outside of this, I do a lot of things. My participation in the town mostly has been as a youth lacrosse coach. For my day job, I work in human resources and also as an adjunct professor.
Okay. Angelina?
Hi, Angelina Correa. I've been in Grafton since 2004. I'm on the Finance Committee. I've been a member since, I believe, 2021 or 2020. And I'm in accounting for work. I'm currently employed by the City of Worcester as a budget analyst. I just took that job a few months ago. So before that, I was in public accounting. So it's a nice change of pace, but looking forward to this.
Thank you. Skip?
Hi, I'm Roger Courier, aka Skip. I've been hopelessly involved in town politics and stuff since I got on the fire department in 1977. I've lived in town since 1971. I'm currently a member of the Nelson Trust and a member of the Finance Committee.
Mr. DeToma?
Bob DeToma. I'm the digital media manager for the town of Grafton, so I have to deal with all the technical glitches. I'm the current chair of the Veterans Advisory Committee and the trustees of Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. I'm a former member of Cable Oversight Committee, and I served on the Charter Review Committee 10 years ago.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Hi, I'm Dan Fitzgerald. I've been a Grafton resident for 28 years. I'm retired. My Grafton government service was on the Board of Registrars. Did that for a little over 3 years. I'm going to be a newly appointed poll worker in 2026. I'm a member of the Grafton Senior Center and a Fogarty supporter.
Mr. Haddad?
Hi, Mark Haddad. I've been in Grafton for 18 years. I am a member of the Finance Committee. I was on the last Charter Review Committee with Bob DeToma, and I've been a municipal government manager for 41 years.
Thank you. Mr. Jefferson?
Hey everyone, I'm Andy Jefferson. I currently serve as the chair on the Grafton Select Board. Previously experienced on the Finance Committee and also served on the Bylaw Review Committee.
Mr. Kelly?
Hello, I'm Jack Kelly. I'm elected to the Grafton Housing Authority as well as our delegate on the Community Preservation Commission, and I've been in Grafton all 27 years of my life.
Mr. Malloy?
Hi, Jim Malloy. I'm lived in town for about 16 years now, and I'm a retired town manager. I've spent 37 years as a town manager here in Massachusetts in Sturbridge, Westboro, and Lexington, and I retired in September 30th of 2024, and I'm currently on the Municipal Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Ms. Rahman?
My name's Angela Rahman. My family and I moved to town in 2023, so it's been 2 years. I have two little ones, 4 and 2. My background is in business and specifically nonprofit management, but more so on the rec service side, working with youth. So this will be new in terms of the government side, but I'm looking forward to it.
And Mr. Robbins?
Skipped over Greg.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Greg Marr?
Hi, Greg Marr. I've been in town since the late 90s. My early volunteering was all with the Scouts, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. I'm a member of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. I'm an election warden. I'm a member of the Finance Committee. I was a member of the Bylaw Review Committee. And I am a software engineer.
Excellent. And last but not least, Mr. Robbins.
Hi, Dave Robbins here.
And Jeff.
How am I missing people?
Hess, yeah.
I have to put my glasses
Go for
back
it.
on, 'cause I get for being vain. Jeffrey Hess.
Jeffrey Hess. I've been in Grafton for 5 years. For my day job, I'm a quality management system professional, and I currently work for a nonprofit that's trying to get out tuberculosis vaccines. So they're an early stage company.
Nice.
Okay. Now I'll take my turn.
Now.
I'm the
Mr.
last
Robbins.
one, right?
Yes, I promise. What if I had
Okay.
had 15?
Pardon?
What if I had gotten 15 people to volunteer? Then you would have still been.
Well, if you've got someone whose last name came later in the alphabet than mine, then I wouldn't be last here.
That's true.
Okay. Again, my name is Dave Robbins. I have been living in Grafton for 40 years as of the end of this month. And it so happens that 40 years ago in 1986 was when Grafton began the process of creating the charter. So my time in Grafton is approximately equal to the time Grafton has had the charter that we are now tasked with reviewing. Other than that, I'm retired. I retired 12 years ago from a 43-year career in computer and telecommunications research and development, which could mean a lot of things, and you don't want me to start talking about all the stuff I did for work. You'd leave. Also, I currently serve on the planning board, a couple of other town boards and committees. I'm the Housing Authority along with Jack, and the IT Committee and the Open Space and Rec Committee. Served on the Bylaw Study Committee a few years ago with Andy and Skip and Greg, and Brian Langevin, who chose not to join. Brian could have been the 15th if he had.
He would have been a great 15th.
Anyway, and I've been on various town boards and committees since about 1988, and I probably could not list all of them off the top of my head. I won't try. Again, if I tried, you guys would all leave out of sheer boredom. And let's see, I guess that's enough.
Okay. Now we'll go down. Now we can take care of the housekeeping. I will take nominations for Chair of the Charter Review Committee.
Madam Chair, I nominate Mark Haddad as chairman.
Second.
And nominate Dave Robbins for chair.
Second.
Second.
Any other nominations?
Yeah, why not make it more difficult? Madam Chair, I'll nominate Greg Marr for chair.
Second.
All right. Okay. We have 3 nominations for chair. We have discussion on Mark Haddad as chair of the review committee, Charter Review Committee.
Do you want me to talk about?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been in municipal government for 41 years. I was on the previous Charter Review Committee in this town. I just wrapped up time on the Charter Review Committee for the town of Groton. I have a lot of experience in government, I have a lot of experience with the charter. I'm very familiar with this charter since I was on the last Charter Review Committee. I served as chair of the Finance Committee in this town for 4 years. I think I can add a lot and help us navigate a very important process. So I'd appreciate your support.
Mr. Robbins, what say you?
Well, I think my recent experience in chairing the Bylaw Study Committee, that was a very interesting, I think the committee worked very well together. Certainly not all on me, but my experience as chair of that. As part of that, we did some work on the charter as part of preparation for this meeting. I've been reviewing the history of the charter in some detail. I'm obviously very familiar with the charter as it is. And as I said, I've been in Grafton for the entire life of the charter, so I know how it's gone. Other than that, I think my experience in chairing various committees over the years, if anybody's, I would say it speaks for itself, but you're not all familiar with the work. A lot of the committees I chair are those that aren't, how do I want to say it? They're not necessarily the most well-known, but nevertheless, I know I'm very capable of doing this job, and I should say that my experience managing a large committee may be relevant in that our master plan working group was a committee of 27. I chaired that, and we were very, very successful.
Greg?
Okay. I've worked with both Mark and Dave on committees, and be happy to serve with either one of them. I had a year as the Finance Committee chair, but I think my experience would be useful, fine, but I would be happy to work with either of the other candidates as well.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins, I think you put the packet together, right? We got an email with the
Yes.
history of all that. That was
Yes, for this committee, I prepared the history of the town charter. I also prepared a little document that circulated for people who aren't as familiar with what a charter is. That document was something I prepared from available reference materials.
Thank you.
And he also made sure that those assets were posted to the committee page on our town website. So they're a great resource for anyone who's
Greg,
interested.
if I could, interrupt, Greg, if you're willing, I'll defer to Dave and just make this a unanimous thing so we don't get bogged down.
That's
And
fine with me.
I think we're ready for a vote.
All right, I will entertain a motion to appoint Dave Robbins, the chair of Charter Review Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Has to be roll
Now you got to
call
do roll call because
Oh, I'm sorry.
I-
Screens
I
aren't
kinda
on
figured-
anymore, and
Yep.
I totally forgot you all are out there, sorry. Okay, we have to take this as a roll call vote. Nate Bodwin? Bodwin,
I support.
aye. Mike Bruni?
Aye.
Angelina Correa?
Hi.
Roger Courier?
Aye.
Bob DeToma?
Aye.
Dan Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Mark Haddad?
Aye.
Jeffrey Hess?
Aye.
Andy Jefferson?
Aye.
John Kelly?
Aye.
Jim Malloy?
Aye.
Greg Marr?
Aye.
Angelina Roman?
Aye.
Dave Robbins?
I'll vote aye.
Uh, I declare the motion carries by unanimous vote. I will now take nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Greg Marr.
Mark, I'd add for the position of vice chair.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Mark? Do you have any further you'd like
No,
to
I
elaborate?
think I've spoken enough
Greg?
already.
I'm good.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Fitch.
I will say that I did watch some of the bylaw stuff, and I know you guys worked well as a team there. I know Mr. Haddad had other responsibilities and done other things. I did take a look at the Groton Charter Committee that he was on, and I looked at some of that. But I know the two of you, Mr. Robbins and Mr. Meyer, have worked well together. So I appreciated what you did in the bylaw stuff.
Any other discussion? I'm going to bring it to a vote one at a time. I will entertain a motion to appoint Mark Haddad, Vice Chair of the Charter Review Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We're taking a roll call vote. Nate Bodwin,
Aye.
Mike Bruni,
Aye.
Angelina Correa,
Hi.
Roger Courier,
Aye.
Bob DeToma,
Aye.
Dan Fitzgerald,
Nay.
Mark Haddad,
Aye.
Jeffrey Hess,
Aye.
Andy Jefferson,
Aye.
John Kelly,
Aye.
Jim Malloy,
Aye.
Greg Marr,
Abstain.
Angela Roman,
Aye.
Dave Robbins,
Aye.
the motion passes 13-1 in favor, Mark Haddad as Vice Chair. And last but not least, I will take nominations for the Clerk of the Charter Review Committee.
Before somebody nominates somebody for that,
Mhm.
we don't have anybody to take minutes. So I think whoever's elected clerk is going to be responsible to do the minutes.
Mm.
So I'd be very, that's a lot of responsibility. So somebody should volunteer if they want to do that. I thought that'd be the best, right, Dave? Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a good man, Greg.
Yeah, I've done it for CIPC, so.
I nominate Greg for clerk.
Okay.
I think this will be a quick vote.
Yeah.
Motion made and seconded. I will entertain, all those in favor by roll call vote. Nate Bodwin,
Aye.
Mike Bruni,
Aye.
Angelina Correa,
Aye.
Roger Courier,
Aye.
Bob DeToma,
Aye.
Daniel Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Mark Haddad,
Aye.
Jeffrey Hess,
Aye.
Andy Jefferson,
Aye.
John Kelly,
Aye.
Jim Malloy,
Aye.
Greg Marr,
Aye.
Angela Rahman,
Aye.
Dave Robbins.
Aye.
I declare the motion carries by unanimous vote. Congratulations to all of you for stepping up to do this. I really do appreciate it. And with the housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to hand this over to the chair.
Okay. Time to put me to work, huh?
Yep.
Well, let's see, I think we see the next item on the agenda being to review the history of the charter. I don't quite know what you had in mind for that, so, I mean, I can go through the timeline. Yeah, I can kind of briefly describe what, the entire history. I'm not, I would not attempt to go through the long document.
The agenda is to review the history. My notes on this were just to walk through what you had done.
Okay.
To prepare all the materials that are now posted on the website. And that is going to be invaluable when it comes to where we've been and where we're going. I don't know that tonight we have to, as a group, go down a history lesson of what has been done before, but if you want to recap what you kind of addressed when you were going through your experience in that when we were established our charter, when the last time it was reviewed, and where we stand with the recommendations from the bylaw review committee.
I can cover all of that.
Okay.
Without trying to read word for word the document that you can all read for yourselves. As I mentioned, I moved into town just in time to vote to begin the charter process, which starts with an elected charter commission, because the town did not have a formal charter at the time. It's often said that towns without a charter document like ours effectively have a charter that consists of all the legislation that the legislature has passed, either specifically for a town or more generally for towns. But back in 1986, and I wasn't a part of the process back then, I came here in time to vote to start the process, but I don't know what went before that. Anyway, in 1986, the voters elected a 9-member charter commission, and the charter commission came out with, in early 1987, a draft proposed charter, went through a few changes, and in May of 1987, the town voted to adopt the charter. Interestingly enough, in August of 1987, we had to make a change. It had to do with the timing of the combining of the treasurer and collector's office. And we made that change by working with Governor Dukakis to get some legislation through. That was, that was the only way to really get it done quickly. So that happened. 1996, our first charter review took place. The Charter Review Committee did not propose any changes at the time. Next Charter Review Committee in 2006 did propose a number of changes, which were passed at the October 2007 town meeting, approved by the voters in the May of 2008 town election. 2016, the next Charter Review Committee, and that's the one that Mark and Bob served on. They had a substantial number of changes to propose at the October 2017 town meeting. Among the proposed changes were to make the town clerk an appointed instead of elected position, to make the planning board an appointed rather than elected position. Both of those failed at town meeting. Everything else they proposed passed, and it was approved at the May 2018 annual town meeting. Since then, there have been a few other changes made to the charter, not through the Charter Review Committee process, but for all practical purposes, The process is the same regardless of who proposes the changes. In May 2019, town meeting voted to change Board of Selectmen to Select Board. And that was done by a citizen petition, and it was also approved by the voters in the 2020 annual town election. Later in 2020, the town voted to adopt the strong fire chief provisions, part of which was a charter amendment, and voted to change, they proposed changing the appointment of the finance committee members. It was, up to that point, it was the moderator's sole responsibility, and then they changed the charter to create a committee of 3 to appoint finance committee members. That was further amended in October of 2022, and then in 2023, town meeting voted to make the town clerk an appointed position. October of 2023, the Bylaw Study Committee proposed a number of charter amendments, all of which were approved by town meeting and ultimately went to the legislature. The legislature finally got around to completing that law in January of last year. So the Bylaw Study, basically all of the Bylaw Study Committee's recommendations for charter changes were adopted. There was I had made a note of that. Where did I put it? I've got too many notes here. Here it is. The Bylaw Study Committee, in their report, recommended, in addition to the charter changes that we adopted, the Bylaw Study Committee recommended that the charter document be amended to remove the charter. The 2016 Charter Committee's report was included in its entirety in the first part of the charter document. And that proved to be somewhat confusing because the Charter Committee's report enumerated all the charter changes that they proposed. So when you read it, it wasn't obvious to you whether you were reading the report or the actual charter. So the committee recommended removing that. That had been done, so that recommendation has been completed. The committee's...
In the last month.
And we finally got it over the finish line in December of 2025.
The Bylaw Study Committee also suggested including in the charter document an appendix listing the history of charter changes. That has not been done, and as of today, I don't know that I would propose that that be done. It could be considered, but again, that's not the actual charter. That's the charter document, and I think I would like to see it. I think it's consistent with the Bylaw Study Committee's recommendation. It would be good to see the history of the charter posted to the town website somewhere, whether as an appendix to the charter or as a separate document. And we now have that document actually posted to the website under the Charter Committee. A slightly more permanent home for it might be in order. That the town, I would probably leave it to the town clerk to decide where best to put something like that. But anyway, that's basically what came out of the Bylaw Study Committee. And here we are today, undertaking yet another review of the town charter. And
it's required in the charter that we have a review committee every 10 years.
yes,
So we're following the,
yes, we're doing what the charter says we must do. And that's why we're all here today. So, I mean, if anybody has any questions and you want any more, to discuss any more details, happy to. I could go on it.
Mr. Chair, I had a question. In some of the literature, and you will know this better than I, but so town meeting right now is representative town meeting? No, I'm sorry, it's
Open town meeting.
There seemed to be some recommendation to try to get representative town meeting going. And I'm curious as to whether that's something we would possibly attack or.
Yeah,
can't.
we discussed this issue because the 2016 Charter Review Committee, that was one of the major changes they wanted to look at.
Right.
But it turns out state law requires that a change like that be done by the elected charter commission. It's the same process that we went through to create the charter. So if at some point we wanted to move forward with a proposal like that, we would have to elect a 9-member charter commission, just as we did in 1986. That charter commission would then be permitted to consider changing the form of the town government.
Got it.
And then now there's a couple of options there. We're obviously not going to pursue that because this committee doesn't have the authority to do that.
Right.
But we could go with a representative town meeting, or we could take another step and go with a town council form of government, which is technically a city form of government. And as much resistance as I remember hearing 10 years ago about the idea of a representative town meeting, I'm sure I would hear incredibly more resistance about going away from town meeting entirely and going to a town council.
Thank you. I don't get
But
off track.
yeah,
Thanks.
a long answer to a short question.
That's fine. Thank you.
Chairman, question.
Yes, sir.
The previous charters, are they available online or anywhere just to take a look back and see what some of the previous versions have been?
I don't know what's available online.
Check with the town administrator's office and see what Amber has.
Yeah.
Can do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one up prior to the 2020 May meeting was available online, and that's actually the one that was sent out. The first one that was sent out before we applied for 23 updates. So there is one that says updates available through October of 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
At the library too, maybe. They keep the records of our yearly book, maybe.
That'd
Yeah.
be interesting to.
the town clerk's office would certainly have all previous versions of the charter. I probably have all of them on my computer as part of the work I did to verify that the latest version of the charter is actually correct. I may have some of them in one form or another. But
Okay.
I know at least one of those forms I have is, well, it's in that long charter, detailed charter history document I posted to the web.
Okay. Great.
But that's the original charter.
So we need to have a copy of the charter that's the perfect copy, that would be the one that it would be like what do you call it?
The reference document or the
Thank you.
master,
Yeah, the master document, and any amendment would have to be, so I'm gonna assume that's gonna be Greg's responsibility as clerk to maintain that record, I would assume. Would that be your
That'd be
thought, Dave?
Yeah, that certainly could work. As I said early on,
Because we had an issue, right? Didn't we have an issue the last time, because it was one version versus another version? And it's important and I'm glad you did what you did.
That was
But
10
what,
years ago.
yeah, thinking back to what we did on the bylaw study, not that many years ago, we basically started out with a clean, current version of the bylaws as they existed.
Yeah.
And then we kept that, but we also, as we worked on changes, we took each bylaw article and, we basically had a marked up version of it. But ultimately, that was something that at the end we were able to put together in one complete document with all the changes marked up, and then a clean version with all the
And we'll do the
changes.
same thing with this, we'll have a red line version for the, okay.
Is the version that's on the committee's website, does that include all of the changes through 24, 25 that were just approved? Because I think that still, the document that is on the committee's website still shows that it doesn't include the town clerk
Yes,
changes.
there's a couple of details in there. There was some elements of the change to the town clerk's position that didn't show up in the charter document. They were it was the state, the legislature passed a special act for the town of Grafton, and two clauses of that act were not,
Have not been included in the document that's online.
were not written as changes to apply to the charter.
So,
What does that
so my understanding is that the special act that was approved by the legislature removed the town clerk from section 3-5
Yes.
as an elected official. But the version that is online on the committee's website still includes the town clerk in section 3-5. So if we're going to start off with a clean copy, we have to make sure that we have all of the current changes by the legislature through special acts incorporated in that initial document so that we're all working from the same document.
Yes, that is one of the discrepancies that I've communicated to Amy Berry, that you know, in the updates to the charter document, they neglected to remove that section. And there is at least
There's two sections. There's the that section where she's referenced in 3-5, and then the section for the town administrator appointing the town clerk.
So how are we going to make sure that what we're all working on is the clean document?
Yeah, that's you know that's my concern, and what I've been working on is to make sure that the document that we will be using as a reference is completely up to date, reflects all of the town meeting, all of the changes voted by town meeting or enacted by the legislature.
So the version that's on the webpage is not the right
That's not
version.
quite up to date.
So if we could ask the town administrator to work with the town clerk and town council to make sure that before our next meeting, that a revised version get posted to the town website, I think that would be very helpful.
Yes, I'm working with Amy Berry to do exactly that. So yes, that was one of the reasons that I undertook all this, you know, collecting documents and everything, was to make sure of exactly that we are starting with a known, verified, up-to-date copy of the charter. I had an issue with that with one of the articles of the town bylaws. There was one article that had accumulated quite a number of typographical and editing errors over the years. So that kind of taught me the importance of going back to the original reference materials, every vote, every act of the legislature, to make sure that the charter we work with, the charter document we work with, is truly up to date. And we're not there yet, but we will be.
Two things come to mind. One is that shouldn't the official one, like, it sounds like you have some information, shouldn't the official one live with the town?
Yes.
That's one. And then two, the one we have on our site, could we get at least a name change? Because not only for us, but other people may look at it. Is there something we can do about the nomenclature? I don't know if it's within our power, but to even put, I don't know, the word draft is coming in my mind, but something that allows people, because I ran into that situation where you're working with it, but it's not the latest.
Yeah, this is very much I'm interested in making sure that the official version, which is maintained by the town clerk's office, that the official version is completely correct. It's accumulated some discrepancies over the years. Yeah, but yes, it's not, I don't own that. Ultimately, the town clerk owns that, and that's the way it should be. That's the way it will be. And anything we put on our website that reflects the work in progress that we might be doing, that will be on the Charter Review Committee's page or materials referenced by that page. So, and I think we did this with the bylaw committee as well. We posted working documents, drafts of proposed changes. Try to do that make that as public as we can.
Yeah, we had a sub-page that listed for each article, here's the changes, and had a document for each article showing
Yeah,
changes.
so when we get to the point of drafting some changes to the charter, I would like to do the same thing. Even before we get to the point of drafting changes to the charter, I'm sure we're going to want to solicit from the public suggestions for changes. We did that, again, that's something we did with the bylaw committee.
We should hold a public hearing.
Yeah, public hearings. Yeah, we specifically asked on the bylaw committee, we asked every town department, every town board and committee for what changes to the bylaws that they thought would be helpful. We asked the public, we'll do that again this time. Yes, I want to make this, I think we all would like to make this as public, involve the public as much as possible. I mean, we'll take
Dust off all the old stuff, Dave. Cross out bylaw and put in charter. Send it out.
Yeah.
So Dave, when do you think you'll have a clean copy of the accurate document for this committee to look at?
It could be as early as tomorrow. I emailed the suggested updates to Amy yesterday. She said after this meeting, she'll work on that.
Okay.
So I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow.
Well,
but
I
it will be.
think what Mr. Malloy said is to have it before the next meeting, so I think
Yes.
that's important.
Yes, definitely before the next meeting. I'd like to get that nailed down with Amy within the next week at most.
And I think just make sure it's posted on our committee website so that if somebody is looking at it and they click on that and they get the wrong version, then we're talking about something different, it'll be confusing. So let's
Yes.
make sure it gets on the website too.
Yes, I think we want the Charter Review Committee's webpage to be up to date. And more general, there's other places that, the other links to the charter on various other pages.
Both
And
the-
they all should point to the same thing.
Yeah, both the town administrator and the town clerk have links to it, and previously they pointed each to their own, but they should everything should point to the same document.
Agreed.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask a quick question about, you keep referencing the bylaw committee, how often does that meet? Because obviously these two.
That's
documents-
every 5 years. Again, dictated by charter, every 5 years. In every year beginning with a
2 or 7.
2 or a 7.
Which is one of the things to
So-
look at, which means the bylaw study committee starts before this one ends.
Depending on how long we take.
Yes.
That's in the
Uh,
chat,
not-
though, yeah?
Not,
Yes, right.
not
We can
entirely,
address that.
right.
Yes.
Not entirely
On my list.
relevant to this committee's work, but the 1996 bylaw committee, I'm not quite sure when it was organized, probably like May or something, but they reported back to the October 1996 town meeting that they had no recommended changes. Of course, if you look at things and decide there's nothing needs changing, you don't have anything to work with. So their time frame was very short compared to the next 2 charter review committees.
Are we gonna take 3 years, because I see we were all appointed for 3 years? Is our goal to do it quicker than that?
I hope so.
Aye.
So for those that weren't aware, the bylaw study committee appointed in '22 was the first one appointed since 2002, despite requiring that it be done every 5 years. So hopefully we won't run into that again.
We can at least give ourselves a
No,
pat
no, it's
back.
great.
Worcester hasn't done their charter review for 40 years.
40?
That was one of the people running for city council was like, their big thing was, we gotta do this charter review, guys. And no one liked that because it wasn't popular, but it's like, we gotta do this, guys.
Yes. Yes, we might want to think about the relative timing between the bylaw review and the charter review. That's one of the items on our list of charter changes to think about.
Yep. Right.
You know, we will start,
And that's
in
item
fact,
3, things
if,
to consider.
if there's no other discussion about the review of the history of the charter, the very next agenda item, consider charter amendments in areas to improve. So at this point, it's throwing out suggestions, obviously initially from us on the committee, but yeah, I would like to say any suggestion is worth writing down.
I have a couple. I'm sure you're shocked by that. I think we need to look at the finance section of the charter. I think we need to look at the way the budget is put together. There's a lot of dysfunction right now between the select board and the finance committee and the school committee. And I think we need to take time looking at that and cleaning that up. So I would say that should be a major focus of this committee. And I also would like to look at the position of town administrator and whether or not we want to create a town manager position for that.
I was going to bring up the same.
Well, I think you and I probably would be on that same page.
Yeah,
There's bias
and it's,
going on.
it really, I was going to bring it up under somewhere between 3 and 4, because there is no statutory definition in Massachusetts of what is a town administrator and what is a town manager. But generally, if the person who's in that position, or the position as it's created, if the individual has the authority to make the appointments of all major department heads, is responsible for developing the budget, is responsible for all town property and for developing a capital plan, that person is generally considered a town manager. And so the reason why I said that it could fall between 3 and 4 is because luckily now almost every single community has their charter on their website. And so it's pretty easy to go in and pick the major categories of responsibilities that town administrators have and town managers have. And I think if we take a look at that and we take a look at what our town administrators' responsibilities are, I think we'll all conclude that it's probably a town manager's position. And we should probably have that discussion. It was one of the things that actually I wrote down that I was also going to bring up during the
Yeah,
meeting
I
tonight.
had noted the same thing about the fact that there's no distinction in law between an administrator and a manager. But yeah, and yeah, I would say the same thing, that it's all about the description of the powers, duties, and responsibilities, and that's what we want to look at. If in fact the powers, duties, and responsibilities of our town administrator, if we want to consider expanding those in any way, that's I think the substance of what we would want to look at there.
Yeah, and I have one more, if I may.
Can I just if there's no distinction between the two, what will that mean in real terms?
Well, in real terms, right now we have a good town administrator, but when he makes a decision to move on to another community, a larger community or whatever, and we go to recruit a new town administrator, a new town
Can't
manager,
happen, right?
No, we're not.
you will see different candidates, I think, applying for town administrators' jobs than you will for town managers' jobs.
Okay.
And really for Evan Broussard, it's better for him if we were to give him the correct title for what his responsibilities are.
But he has the
so that-
he has all the appointing authority.
He
and
does.
He has the budget responsibility, so.
Yeah, and I've worked in both, where I was a town administrator in Sturbridge. It's a very strong position. I even appointed the planning board. I appointed the charter review committee, in fact. And when they had a charter review, they talked about, well, maybe we should make this a town manager's position, but it came down to, well, we want to be quaint because it's Sturbridge, so we're going to leave it as town administrator because it sounds quainter. But it doesn't really reflect what the real responsibilities of the job are. And so I really think that it's one of those things that I think we ought to take a look at and have an accurate job title.
So again, we're going to continue discussing all this stuff, but one of the possibilities there is that we like the description of the job. We just think a different job title might be beneficial to the town.
Yeah.
One last one, if I may.
Yes, Mark.
The way that the fire chief is appointed right now and the way the responsibility of that position right now is very confusing. I'm not suggesting we change it from strong chief to anything else. It should remain a strong chief. But I don't understand why we wouldn't want to have either the town administrator, whatever we come up with, town administrator, town manager, appoint the fire chief and have the fire chief report directly to the town manager. It doesn't matter if he's a strong chief or not. The appointment would still be subject to ratification by the select board. But right now, there's an issue going on where the fire chief has to, day-to-day operational probably works very closely with the town administrator, but reports to the select board. All the department heads should report to the town administrator, town manager, in my opinion. So I think we need to look at changing the appointing authority of the fire chief and put that under the town administrator, town manager, whatever title we come up with. And I'd be interested to hear your opinion on that, because I think there's a lot of dysfunction going on right now with that position.
Yeah, I agree entirely. There's the other problem with having a person appointed by a select board is that town administrators and school superintendents get their annual performance evaluations done in a public meeting. And if
It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And if there are any disciplinary issues, it's done in a public meeting, which is really uncomfortable And in a lot of ways, select board members who are volunteers will defer taking disciplinary action because it is a very controversial thing to do and a very uncomfortable thing to do. And so I think having, as Mark said, you know, he's reporting to the town administrator anyway, but he's also coordinating with the police chief and other department heads. And it's easier to manage a team if everybody's part of that team. And it's easier for the town administrator privately to speak with a individual department head if there's a disciplinary issue or something to talk about than it is to do it in a public meeting. And when you're talking people who are full-time professionals who are, like I said, coordinating with other department heads, I think it makes for a much better management team.
Those are my three initial areas.
That's it for now?
For now.
I'm counting on you to come up with some
I'll
more
come up
as
with some
we
more.
move along here.
Say, so on these topics and suggestions, we'll have a chance to talk more about them. I'm just curious always about why was the fence put up in the first place, not just changing, but why was it?
Yep.
Not asking for an answer, just consideration as we
absolutely.
look at, we want to make change. I'd like to understand why is it the way it is currently.
Yes, I think we will find that it with some of the suggestions that we work with, we'll find that explaining it in or in further consideration, we may really sounded look like it's one of these, could be one of these, sounded like a good idea at the time, but yeah, we really don't want to do that. But yeah, at this point, I'm more interested in collecting suggestions. We will be discussing them, and ultimately we will decide which of the suggestions we include in our final recommendations. So, yeah, this is an ongoing process, and we're just getting started. Any other suggestions?
No, it was more feedback for the current suggestion. We can discuss it later.
I have one. I am interested in looking at the commissions and committees in town and looking at which boards get delegates on them and if there are any changes or updates that should be made. The one that comes immediately to mind is the Affordable Housing Trust having no delegate on the Community Preservation Committee, only because they didn't exist when the CPC was created. So now the Housing Authority has one, despite technically being a different realm. And while we've been able to,
I think we got to be careful, because some things that we can't do within this is we can't, the way the Community Preservation Committee is set up, it's a state law, and the state law designates what positions serve on there. So the state law specifically says Housing Authority, so I'm not sure if we can make that change in our charter. I don't know.
I think as long as there's a member of the Housing Authority, we could probably include the affordable housing group.
When that was proposed not too many years ago, and it was proposed in the form of adding the Affordable Housing Trust as a required representative, not replacing the Housing Authority.
Yeah.
Could we do that with it? Because there are statutory ones under the Community Preservation Act, and then there are at-large ones that the Select Board appoints. So would we look at that?
We could tweak, that would be a matter of the bylaw. That's not in the
okay.
charter.
I agree with you 100%, by the way. Affordable Housing Trust should be on there. It's just got to be how we do it. We got to make sure we do it right.
because the issue previously was the members feeling that they didn't want that spot being away, but I am now that delegate. And I go there and I'm like, I like these meetings, but it really shouldn't be me or someone from our board.
Yeah. Which does remind me of a point that we need to keep in mind. We may find out that some of the suggestions that we get, even some of the ones that we like, well, these aren't actually appropriate for the charter, but they belong in the bylaws.
Should we ask town council to come in and talk to us before we get started to walk us through the process? I think that would be helpful. Yeah, it was very helpful.
Not a bad idea. But again, drawing on our experience with the bylaw committee, we were tasked with proposing updates to the bylaws. But as part of that process, we identified a couple of charter changes that really needed to be made to go along with and for consistency with the bylaws. So we did that. As a bylaw committee, we proposed charter changes. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that we as a charter committee may find that there are some necessary bylaw changes to go along with what we'd like to do with the charter. So, you know, that it's possible that we could end up proposing some bylaw changes.
I think what we did last time, we talked with the town administrator about the process, and his desired process was we submit questions to him, and he manages that relationship with the town council. So I don't think we ever actually met with town council.
No, we didn't.
directly.
I would like to have town council come in and meet with us, so.
And just as a review of the process for charter changes,
And so that would just be a request for the town
Yeah.
administrator at this point.
Yeah.
To have him come in, because he's the gatekeeper.
Oh, 100% understood, but I think it's worthwhile having that happen.
yeah, even though I'm quite sure that I know the ins and outs of the process of charter changes, and I could tell you the way I think it works, and hopefully town council would say, yeah, he's right.
I'm
But
sure he will.
This is the kind of thing that there's a little bit more credibility when it comes from someone who you have every reason to believe really knows the law.
Yeah, because, you know, when we sat down and looked at it, one of the things that town council will probably tell us is that within the charter, you don't want to be too specific on something. You want to keep it general, and then the bylaws, because you can
Yeah.
amend a bylaw a lot easier than you can amend a charter. So it'd be good for us to hear that from town council and the public to hear that, so they understand exactly what the process is.
Yeah, we did that with some of the finance committee amendments.
Yeah,
the
that's
last
right.
few years.
That's right.
Yep.
We had something that was specified in both, and then we deferred from the charter to the bylaws.
Which makes sense, because bylaws can be amended a lot easier if they have to be
Yeah.
than the charter.
Yes. By and large, the charter is not for details.
Correct.
I mean, it's, you know, the main purpose of the charter is to,
Set the framework.
you know, it's a framework. It sets out the basic structure of the town government, the form of town meeting, that type of thing. It spells out the elective offices. The document I circulated about what is the charter did include some information about things the charter can't do.
And also the myth, Don, I think you said that, the home rule myth, which I read through, and I was like, okay, so what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
But the council part was a big part of it. It was, you may think you're going down a path, but at the end of the day, town council may go.
And the other thing, again, because we're talking a bit about town council, the other thing we did in the bylaw committee, which I would expect us to want to do as well, is when we had some proposed bylaw changes, we ran those by town council. We asked town council to review all of the changes we made, and town council did have some suggestions. Sometimes they were, you know, sort of grammar and punctuation. Sometimes they were more substantive. But yeah, I would very much rely on town council to advise us, if nothing else, whether what we propose is appropriate. So we'll, at maybe more than one point, we will involve town council, but I like the idea of, you know, coming in with a sort of an initial discussion about what's appropriate for a charter, that type of thing.
Yeah. So if we're still taking recommendations, I didn't go through the whole thing because I noticed that it wasn't the official one, but just a little bit that I covered here. And you may tell me this is off the table, but I'd like to talk about the finance committee, because it looks like all proposals delivered through finance committee. I think finance, I think cash, I think money, but it sounds like they have decision power on things that are not.
Recommendation, not decision.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Recommendation, power, right, influence, they have it.
Yep.
So that's something I'd like to have a discussion, a better understanding of.
You get full members on our board, so I think we're in good hands with that. You know that.
Yes. Yes, over the years, there's been some discussion around that.
Yeah.
I think not only in Grafton, but in other towns, because in one sense at least, the Finance Committee is a warrant review committee, because they are tasked with reviewing every warrant article for town meeting. So it's, their responsibility is not limited to finance. Unless we choose to change that, but that's the way it's currently structured. There have been disagreements about whether finance committees should be called finance committees or called warrant review committees. And I don't remember off the top of my head. I think this probably came up in Grafton. I've read about it in other towns, if my memory is correct. There have been proposals to
Sometimes they
rename,
call it the advisory committee.
yeah, rename the finance committee to a name which more accurately reflects their responsibility. But kind of the more traditionalist people really like to think of it as a finance committee, even though they all know it's more than that.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Maybe we want to change that title or change the responsibilities.
In my experience in Sturbridge and Westboro, the Finance Committee had the same role where they made recommendations on all articles that went before town meeting. But in my role in Lexington, we had an Appropriations Committee and a Capital Expenditures Committee. Appropriations only made recommendations on finance articles. A Capital Expenditures Committee made recommendations sometimes on finance articles, but on capital articles, and then the Select Board was the sole recommendation on a lot of the other articles. We would, even where the Appropriation Committee may have been asked a question during town meeting, if it was not within their purview, they would state so, and they wouldn't take a position on it. And so and I think that's a rarity. They have a representative town meeting form of government, and it's a very intense kind of place, but it works for them because it's Lexington. But I think most towns follow the pattern similar to what Grafton has.
I see Skip's hand up on Zoom. Skip?
Yeah, sure. I think that it's my understanding from talking to people that were around pre-charter that the finance committee's role was a lot more involved in the finances of the town. And when the charter change was made, it was kind of turned into a warrant advisory committee, but in deference to all the people that had served so faithfully as finance committee members, they chose not to change their name to a warrant advisory committee, which they kind of are, but the town administration owns through a series of articles that you'll see with the finance committee, financial information when requested. So it kind of changed it from what had been far more involved in the town's finances and budget preparation and approval to approving or recommending town meeting what it should and shouldn't do. That's what it changed to when the charter got passed.
And I think this kind of ties into one of Mark's suggestions, which was to look at the role and responsibilities of the finance committee, and what was it kind of? My sense was it kind of you're thinking of trying
the whole function of the finance committee.
Right. Yeah. So if we're reviewing the function of the finance committee, then yeah, that's your thought is well worth keeping in mind with that.
I had one more suggestion, although it's for the least sexy of all the issues, was I had a lengthy conversation about the Parks and Trails Committee. I don't believe that's the official name of it, but their role and responsibility seems to, at least the way it's written, hinder them pretty greatly and what they can and cannot do. And I think that if we looked at other committees that could be taking on responsibilities that Parks and Trails Committee could have, that would be beneficial for everyone involved.
Yeah. That might turn out to be a bylaw rather than a charter issue. But yeah, keep it in mind. Before I get to my list, does anybody else?
I have
Greg.
two, one of which we've already mentioned, which is the timing of the bylaw study committee relative to the charter review committee. And the second is that there is a item in the charter that seems to be in conflict with open meeting law recommendations that says that all boards and committees shall vote by roll call except for administrative issues or something to that effect. And as far as I can tell, no one does that. So
That's in the chart. I don't
That is
remember
in the
reading that in the charter. Wow. All right.
So I think that is something that we haven't done and doesn't meet the requirements from open meeting law, which just say that you have to be able to identify who voted what way, not that it specifically has to be a roll call. So that's just a minor change that I think we probably just say align with open meeting law.
Anything else? I've got a few notes that I've accumulated over the years, actually. Let's see, and some of them we've already talked about, so I won't repeat any of that.
Are you going to recommend that we make the planning board appointed? A little humor, just a joke, I was joking.
No, just eliminate it.
Yeah, we don't really need that, do we? Okay, I think there are a couple of details that need to be updated to reflect that the town clerk is now an appointed position. And I think there are a couple of places in the charter where the amendments that were ultimately made by the legislature didn't cover quite everything. That's probably because what we voted on to submit to the legislature didn't cover everything. You know,
I think there were some things we said to do that they didn't do. So.
yes. So I would want to review the provisions of the charter relative to the town clerk and make sure that we don't have any cruft left over from when the town clerk was elected. There is one clause or one section of the legislation that created the appointed town clerk position. There's one part of that, and I'd have to look it up. I'm not going to try to quote it, but there was one part of that which was not written as an amendment to the charter. I think it was the description of the town clerk's job and responsibilities, which I think probably, I would look to town council's advice to make sure, but I think probably that should be put in the charter. There was one section of that legislation that dealt with the transition of the clerk from elected to appointed. We don't need to include that in the charter for sure. That was entirely appropriately done as special legislation. But there's one section of that I would at least consider including in the charter, because right now the charter as it stands has no description whatsoever of the town clerk's position.
And it just relied on Mass General Law for that.
Yeah, and it may turn out to be appropriate to leave it at that, but I would want to look at that. And all I've done so far is I've noticed that was there, and I thought, yeah, that's something that I want to look at further to see. Other than that, let's see, what else? No, there are some kind of small things. There's the section on the town administrator. There's some qualifications that appear in a paragraph that's not otherwise about qualifications. I suspect I know how that came about, but I think I would, that's an example of kind of things I would look at, just how the charter is written, and are there things that are just in the wrong place in the charter, or things that aren't worded quite right? There are probably a lot of little details. Again, when we went through the bylaws, we scrutinized everything from spelling to punctuation to formatting to grammar, and that's one of the things I want to go through with the charter. Is I would go through that from beginning to end. And Greg and Skip and Andy, you probably know that I will, even if nobody tells me to. Just to
I think we even had a separate article just for doing that.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we did.
We did. Anyway, there's also under the town administrator, I think we could, this goes back to the town administrator article, but instead, this isn't talking about responsibilities of the town administrator or town manager or whatever we ultimately decide to call that position. But there was there's some language in the charter about filling a vacancy when the, you know, there's, and what we did when our previous town administrator left, what we did was hire an interim town administrator, which technically the charter didn't allow us to do, at least the way I read the charter. So I would look at that language for dealing with vacancies to clarify that, to make sure it's clear that, that at least at the select board's discretion, they could go outside to hire a temporary town administrator / manager.
Yeah, I think that's probably been cleared up. There is a section, because I thought I'd read that, that says that any vacancy in the offices of the town administrator, the select board may appoint an administrative officer or employee to serve as temporary or somebody else. Such temporary appointment may not exceed 3 months, but one renewal may be voted by the select board not to succeed a second.
Yeah, my recollection is that language is, it's expecting the appointment to be made from within the town staff, which is the issue I had with.
Yeah, we can look at that, I think.
So I don't need to resolve that, but I would want to look at that to make sure that the charter allows us to do.
Especially because,
Not, I mean, Evan's going to be here forever, but if for some reason he, you know, he does decide to move on or whatever happens.
especially because that situation was a very unique situation
Yeah.
where we're in the middle of a pandemic and we don't have a town administrator, so it's like, we need
Yeah,
the,
but, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I want to be sure that, the select board can either appoint a current town employee as a interim TA or temporary TA, or can go outside, whatever, you know, whatever they think would work best under the circumstances.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
So it's, and we went ahead and did it anyway, but even if the charter, strictly speaking, didn't allow it. So, and that's, you know, I'd seen a couple of things like that in the bylaws, and I think that was, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but things that, you know, things that they say, the bylaw or the charter says that, well, this really isn't always going to be workable. You know, let's try to write it in such a way that we have enough flexibility to do whatever works best.
And that might be where we can use town council a little bit, where we can ask for legal opinions on, is the current wording, would it allow the select board to do X?
Right.
You know, and then we can get a legal opinion, which we can put in the record of the committee.
That would be good.
For the record, I was still on finance committee when we broke the rules. I wasn't an elected select board member then.
Yeah, so, let's see, the last item on my list for now, and I'm sure I'll probably think of other things later, but we mentioned a little while ago the question of aligning the times of the bylaw review and the charter review, where they come a little bit close. Every 10 years, they come a little bit too close together. The other thing that we might want to consider, and I guess you could, I think you could apply this to both bylaw review and charter review. We might want to consider whether the charter should be at least a little bit more specific about the composition of the committee. Right now, you know, Dawn had the discretion to appoint as few or as many members as she wanted to this committee. There was no constraint whatsoever. And I did a quick scan of a few other town charters, and we're not the only one that's written like that. So it's completely up to the moderator how many people in a committee. Previous committees have all been substantially smaller than this.
Last one, would we have, you said you can't remember 10 years ago, right?
I can't
think we
remember
had
lunchtime.
I think we had 7 on the
I
last.
think you had 7. The 2006 committee, I think, had 5. I have no record that I could find of how many people were on the 1996 committee.
1, because they didn't do any work and they said, don't make any changes.
I know 2 people who were on it. I don't know the entire composition. It was never recorded in any of the town reports. I'm sure I could go into the town clerk's vault and find the minutes. So if we really, really, really wanted to know how many people were on the 1996 committee, We could find that out, but I no need to do so.
You know, when you're doing your research, following up a point that Mike made earlier about the reason and the rationale behind something, why the distinction of the 5 years for the bylaw and the 10 years for the charter? I'd be interested to see what the thought process was, because looking at a bylaw every 5 years, I don't know why you need to do that often. So I'd like to even talk about the timing on the review piece.
Yeah,
So I think that was a good point that Mike raised earlier.
chances are, if you could find any of that anywhere in the records of the town of Grafton, it would be in the minutes of the 1986 Charter Commission,
Should look at that.
because that's where it came from. It has not been changed
Has not been
since then.
changed since then.
And there's at least a possibility that they copied it from another charter. A lot of the language in our charter, if you look at other charters, you're going to say one of these is a cut and paste from another.
You know, municipal government is a very plagiaristic. Is that,
Yeah.
Did I use the right word?
Yeah, and
Don't reinvent the wheel.
It's efficient is a better word, not plagiaristic.
Yeah, thank you,
Using
Chuck.
resources.
my approach to something like that is, I don't want to reinvent the wheel if I can find a perfectly good wheel. So, Dawn?
I just have a thought about why it might be more often for the bylaw, just based on other conversations that I've had and something that Mark said earlier. You can make an amendment change to a bylaw far easier than you can to a charter.
No, that might
And
be- yeah.
as we know from the bylaw review that you all just did, there were a lot of contradictory amendments that hadn't been reviewed and assimilated and organized. So there was stuff that was, I think, in theory, if you're doing it every 5 years instead of every 20, you would have caught some of that along the way, whereas the charter is more, I think of it more as the Constitution. It's the framework, and it shouldn't need to be dramatically changed as often. But if you can make amendments, and we have citizens petitions every spring, and they get tacked into the bylaw, and then they just keep snowballing. And then if you don't take a moment to stop and say, okay, let's get this organized and figure out where we were and where we were going and whether or not this is really even anything we need to be worried about anymore. To me, that's why it would be more often than with the charter.
Yeah, that seems plausible.
That reminds me of the other thing we talked about at the bylaw review committee is having a standing bylaw review committee.
Oh,
That makes sense.
that's a better
Would
idea,
that be
Greg.
a charter?
I don't know.
That would have to
Think
be in
we-
a charter?
Something that the committee identified as, it might be appropriate for that section to say that there is a committee that all bylaw and charter amendments that are proposed are sent to this committee for review.
Just
So someone that has some experience with it can look at it and they can also provide assistance to citizens who wish to petition for changes. Because I know there's a lot of issues now with citizens petitions, the select board and the town administrator trying to stay as hands-off from that as possible so as not to have any appearance of impropriety. So having an outside commission or committee or something would help with that.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, so going back for a moment with the question of the composition and appointing authority for the Charter Review Committee. I mentioned that I'd scanned a few others. I found 3 towns that specify the number of members on the Charter Review Committee and the composition. They said, some of them say like a representative of the select board, a representative of the school committee, maybe some others. So there's one town that I found has the select board appoint the committee instead of the town moderator. Doesn't say anything about how big the committee is or who should be on it. Another one has a committee, and my notes don't say how that committee got formed, but it has a committee to appoint the Charter Review Committee. Sounds strikes me as being kind of awkward.
Groton's charter has the moderator appoint 2, the select board appoint 3, and the FinCom appoint too.
Interesting.
So that's how they break it up.
Yeah, so I would
We could look at
suggest,
something like
yeah,
that.
I would suggest reviewing more town charters just to see how many variations there are. You know, and in the end, we may conclude that, hey, the way we do it is just fine.
Mhm.
But, you know, since,
Can we make a motion to appoint Dawn to this committee to make it 15? Because we should have an odd number, right?
That's right, technically, the charter requires every multiple member bodies must have an odd number of
So
members.
Dawn, are you volunteering to appoint yourself?
I wasn't sure if I could.
Oh, yes, you can. There's nothing that says you can't.
Okay.
You should appoint a deputy moderator to appoint yourself.
Let's see, do we have someone in this room that frequently acts as a deputy moderator?
I have a hard stop pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do we want to pick the next meeting date? I don't need to move this along, I apologize.
Yeah, no, I think we've had a lot of good discussion here. We've got a lot to work with here. We've got some, you know, some ideas for what we want to do next.
Could I bring up one other item?
Yes.
One other item I noticed when I read through the charter is that there are some items here that simply repeat what is stated in statute. And so I don't know whether or not there's real value to having it in our town charter if it's already stated in state law, such as petitioning to have a warrant article on the town meeting warrant. It says how many signatures you need for an annual or a special town meeting. Well, that's stated in state law. And what's left out in the charter is that also in state law with 200 signatures, you can force a town meeting to occur. And so we don't include everything that's in the state law, but we include some of what's included in the state law. And so I think it might help provide some clarity if we just refer to the state, you know, as provided by mass general laws or by the general laws or whatever.
That's an interesting point. I think in some of the reading I've done over the last couple of weeks, you know, trying to get a sense of, you know, like what I could put into that, what is the charter document that I mailed out. Some of the reading I did seemed to suggest that there's some value in restating statutes in the charter, at least under some circumstances. And I don't remember exactly what that was. And that's something I think town council town council's advice would be helpful.
Yeah, the value that I would say that you have by having it in the charter is that if the state changes the law, this particular charter, because it's a special act charter, is also a state law. And therefore, if there was a conflict between state law and our town charter would prevail for the town because it's also a special act, the state law. And so that's the only thing is if we
Actually,
said, let's say.
Sorry to interrupt, but you know, our charter is not a special act charter. It's a home rule charter.
But it goes through the legislature.
Mostly, no, it doesn't.
Mostly it doesn't. So it comes
We've
back
some
to a vote.
some amendments to our charter. Most of the amendments that we've made to the charter have been made by town meeting vote, which then goes to the next annual town election ballot.
It does. So we have that type of a charter.
Yeah.
Okay, because I just read the last couple that went to the legislature
We have
special
right.
acts.
We have occasionally chosen to petition the legislature for a special act to amend
That's
our
interesting.
charter.
I think this time, that's why I want to have town council come in, because I think this time it should be a special act, so that
Yeah.
it doesn't conflict with
Yeah,
state law.
see that, I think the fact that we've done it both ways creates some issue too, that we should probably ask town council about that, because I think at some point it could create some kind of a legal issue about whether or not a state law conflicts with our charter or it doesn't, and how that charter amendment was originally approved and stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, Chapter 43B, Section 20 basically says that pretty much anything we have in the charter is deemed to be consistent with state law.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of how home rule charters get away with doing some of the things they do, because by definition, anything in our charter by definition is not in conflict with state law. With caveat, of course, being that the Attorney General reviews our proposed charter changes, and the Attorney General will not approve something that conflicts with at least certain provisions of law that.
Wasn't that what happened the first town clerk vote? The attorney general said we didn't have the right quantum of vote?
Yep.
But in a case where our charter, let's say it's a home rule charter question, and it says that it requires 100 signatures to place an article on a town meeting warrant for a special town meeting. Let's just go with that. Those kind of laws were passed when populations in Massachusetts were, 500 people in a community or something like that. So there might be a point in time where the legislature says, well, we're going to change that to 500. And so our charter would say one thing, and a state law would say something different, and then we would have to go back and change the charter if we wanted to be consistent with the state law at that point, because the state law would have changed after we adopted a home rule charter. So
There are
it's
some
just something.
towns that have just changed their numbers because of that.
Yeah,
Just like in the last month.
And it might be something that's just worth asking town council about when we do have them here, is whether or not there's value to doing it as a special act or doing it as a home rule as we have it, and where we have a sort of a hybrid town charter where it's some special act and some home rule, what kind of issues we might find with that. I think that's a good legal question for town
It's
council.
worth getting some clarity on that. Skip, you have your hand up.
So we had discussed this whole, why do we do this in two different fashions, amending the charter in the past charter review and part of our bylaws, just as part of discussion. I have a simpler question through the chair for Madam Moderator. Who are we reporting back to? Because you said the town council when we're done?
Board of Selectmen, select board.
Did you mean the select board or town council?
According
Where
to
we're
the
reporting to.
charter, it goes back to town council for review before we can make any proposed amendments.
So it's just a
in the warrant.
legal
Yeah,
review.
doesn't it ultimately our report is the town meeting?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I
So
think the
just like
the
the
charter
five-
says that town council should review
Mhm.
our work, which of course, that almost goes without saying.
Mhm.
But then our recommendations ultimately, once they've passed through town council review, that's council as in lawyer, not council as in like a city council.
Mhm.
And then it goes to town meeting. Our recommendations go to town meeting for votes. And then from there, depending on which way we write the town meeting vote, and we've done it two ways. We've done it the usual town meeting vote to amend the charter. That automatically then goes to Attorney General review and then to the annual election ballot. Or, as we've done a few times recently, the town meeting vote can be to petition the legislature for a special act to amend the charter.
So, if I may ask, how often should we meet, and when do we want, should we pick a date, a day of the week? Does
That's-
Thursdays work for
Yeah,
everybody?
that gets into, into the questions, we need to do this before we close this meeting.
Mhm.
How often do we meet? My first thought is once a month.
I agree with that.
Just again, for comparison, the bylaw committee, we met every other week. We met every 2 weeks because there were 41 bylaw articles that we had to deal with. So we needed to meet frequently to get that work done. The charter is much smaller than that. Seems to me that once a month would be sufficient.
Did we start as once a month until we had feedback from the bylaw and then went to more often, or did we start at 2 weeks and went to more often?
We might have started at once a month. We got into the every 2 weeks pretty quickly.
Yeah.
My memory's not that
Well,
good.
Once we sent out that flyer to the different groups, it became apparent that we had to meet more often than once a month.
That might happen here too.
Yeah.
I think once a month to start, and that gives
Yes.
you more time to make sure we get the right charter
Right.
that we're gonna be looking at.
Yeah. That's-
I think that's kind of important.
Yeah. Yes, by hook or by crook, we will have the correct, most up-to-date charter within a week. And unless the town clerk decides to fight me on it.
So would our next meeting be February 12th or February 19th?
So then, yeah, one of the questions would be, which day of the week is the meeting date that works best for all of us.
Thursday's good.
That seems to not conflict with other boards and committees. Am I
Only big
right
ones on
that?
Thursdays are zoning board of appeals and community preservation. So if we
Thursday
did,
seems to be a good night.
if we did second Thursday of the month, I don't believe there'd be any.
And the 19th is school vacation week.
So you
which
wanna do
may
the
affect
12th?
some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always tried to avoid scheduling meetings during school vacation weeks.
We'll stay with the remote piece too.
Hybrid.
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 Yeah,
I believe that is also a rule. Every meeting must be.
No, it's at the discretion of the community. You don't,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah,
mandatory.
it hasn't become mandatory.
The reason why you can't make a mandatory, not a lot of towns have great rooms like Grafton has. To do the hybrid is very,
yes, yeah, we have rooms that do hybrid very well, except for.
well, maybe not this one.
Except for this one tonight.
Usually. Did we pick a date?
I think the 12th.
Somebody's gonna work on that.
So Dave, the 12th?
12.
Let's see. I
That'd be
should
the
look at my
second
calendar
February-
to see
or the
if I have
second
any
Thursday.
issues.
Right.
I
I
should
think
have
that's what Jack, didn't you say the second? Yeah.
And looking forward, there wouldn't be any holidays interacting with it until April, but that's just the week of Easter, so it's not.
Holy Thursday?
Hmm?
Holy Thursday.
My apologies.
We can adjust our schedule that week.
Yeah, so are we at least for the moment comfortable with the second Thursday of the month?
Yep.
And again, it's all subject to change if necessary, but we'll plan on second Thursday a month as a hybrid meeting here in one of the available conference rooms and hopefully a conference room with Zoom that actually works.
So the open meeting law with regards to us getting information from each of us before a meeting could be problematic. Because I violated the open meeting law in Groton on the Charter Committee because I drafted a proposal and it went out in a packet to the committee. We didn't have any discussion, but I drafted, I was a member of the committee. I put it in the packet and it went out and it was a violation of the open meeting law because I'm a member of the committee and I can't share my thoughts outside of a meeting. So I think at the next meeting, if somebody has a proposal that they want to start considering, it would have to be delivered at the meeting, not prior to the meeting. We can't share information amongst us in a packet. Like, Andy, you get a packet from the town administrator with all sorts of information, because that's coming from him.
Mhm.
But you can't, as a member of the select board, issue something prior to the meeting, because that's a violation of the open meeting. I found that out the hard way.
Yeah, correct.
So I just want to warn everybody to be careful about that.
Yep. And I think probably it's good to share, to have information available for review prior to meeting night, provided you distribute it the right way.
It has to be it literally has to be here in the room. Because members of the committee cannot share information to other members of the committee in a packet before the meeting. I learned that the hard way in Groton. I don't want anybody.
That's efficient state government.
Absolutely, 100%. It's very inefficient, but that's the way the open meeting law works. So I'll share town council's opinion on that with you from
Yeah.
Groton if you want to see it, because
I know
Yep.
when we did the bylaw, we had one master document that was specifically not shared for exactly that reason.
But I think what I would like to propose is if a member has a specific proposal in a specific section of the charter to at least to start talking about it, I'd like us to bring that to the next meeting. At least that can be presented and
Yeah.
that could be the basis of a discussion at a future meeting. That'd be my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
And they can share that information with the chair as long as they're not, sharing it out with the full
It could
board,
go
so
to the
that-
chair, absolutely, but the chair cannot because we're not a quorum. So
Right,
if I
correct.
send Dave something.
Yep.
Dave can send it to 7 other of you before it violates the open meeting
Right.
law.
Yes, I want to be, we want to be careful about.
I want to be careful about that.
I think that's a good reminder too, just in general, because we have some, newer faces in the room, which is fantastic. Love that we have, people getting involved, but any correspondence, no sharing opinions, anything like that. We can talk as a group about setting meeting dates, share out policy. but nothing with an I think or I feel statement type scenario, so.
It brings the question of how do we want to work together? Because once, I guess we'll have to talk about it collectively, because one was if you have a section, or we're going to go section by section, everyone looks on their own, then come back. So, do you know, like, those are kind of operational questions that we may want to bring up.
Well, you know, what might, we meet as a group, a suggestion, we meet as a group once a month, but maybe we divide up into subcommittees, still subject to the open meeting law, still would have to be posted meetings, but maybe we divide up the subgroups to look at certain sections. Like, for example, Jim and I talked about the town manager piece, so maybe there's a subcommittee of Jim, me, and somebody else that we go off, post our meetings, have a meeting to talk about that, and then bring back a proposal to the full committee, so at least it's vetted by some members of this committee before it comes back to the full committee. That might help with the discussion. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's just an idea. Since we're so big, we can have a ton of subcommittees.
I think that could well be turn out to be a useful way to work.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking that if we really had a lot of discussions that, you know, that waiting a whole month between discussions seems to slow things down, then, I mean, that's kind of why we ended up going every 2 weeks with the bylaw committee. But
subcommittees
would certainly work.
Amber will probably kill us because she'll be posting a ton of meetings, but that's okay.
But yes, I think as you know, as we progress in the work, if we identify particular subjects or tasks that could use some additional work in between our regular meetings, a subcommittee would be perfect. You know, I think we're pretty much free to create a subcommittee as we need it.
I will not be at the February 12th meeting. I don't get home until 10 o'clock. I'm going to be away for about 3 or 4 weeks. So I just looked at my calendar. I just thought I was coming home at 3:20, but I'm coming home at 10.
That's it, Jim, you're up.
I think you should reschedule your time away.
If we could meet on the 19th.
That's the other risk of a committee, particularly of this size, but even smaller committees, that there are times when work schedules or vacation schedules or travel schedules will conflict with and finding a date when absolutely everybody can get together can be a challenge.
I'm really impressed that all 14 of us are here tonight. I'd be shocked if that happens again.
Yes, well, we'll do the best we can.
Absolutely.
And, presumably, everybody will have a chance to. Well, we will record every one of our meetings, so everybody will have a chance to view the records and to review minutes.
Will there be sound?
I would like to think that Zoom is capturing all our sound here. I think I'm remembering one meeting, I don't know if it was me when I couldn't get the owl to work right or something else where the audio was incomplete in the recording. But anyway, so.
Second.
Sorry.
Did I hear a motion?
Sorry, I have one question.
I noticed that Mark Haddad had a hard stop. So
How do we communicate in between just like operational questions? If I have a question, I'm just trying to think.
Go through the chair.
Go through the chair.
Go through the
Okay.
chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have an email list for the committee.
Okay.
But don't email the entire committee.
Right.
Yeah. I would, Dave, any communication should go to you only.
Yeah, typically the only communication with the entire committee between meetings would be for administrative, primarily, though I've used it primarily for scheduling meetings.
Mm-hmm.
That's not deliberation. I think that's explicitly excluded from the definition of deliberation. So administrative details, yeah, we communicate. There's the email list, crc@grafton-ma.gov.
So we can't keep track of action items. Right, like, there's no open action items where everyone can see.
We could do that, but you can provide feedback or comment outside a meeting.
Yeah.
You know, we can keep a cumulative list of what we're working on for sure.
Yeah.
Nice to meet everybody.
All right.
See everybody.
Night, Mark.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Mike.
So what we can receive outside feedback, we can't then discuss it.
Yeah.
So
Because-
we can send out a message to all boards and committees and town departments and say, please provide us your feedback. They provide us your feedback. We discuss it at the next meeting and not before.
Does motion on the
That
floor.
feedback can be provided to us prior to the meeting, though.
Yes. Because that is not generated by committee members.
But we would send that first to the chair, and the chair would send it out to all of us, right? If I'm understanding kind of the sequence.
We can either have the feedback go to the chair or to the mailing list.
Yeah.
The issue becomes us discussing something not filmed and
Yeah.
recorded when we are the ones ultimately making the decision of what to put
Yeah.
forward. So if it's not shown to the public, even if it's completely innocent, even if someone sends them feedback and you go, I think this is a great idea, we should do this, it's against the law.
Yeah. So it's better not to.
And-
Wait until we're in a meeting.
And like I said, that includes if you email him and he emails him and he emails, the chain expands as the topic goes around, so don't get into that.
Yeah, basically in between meetings, don't offer your opinions or thoughts on any subject.
It's like Fight Club.
Yeah,
The Sergeant Schultz principle.
analogy.
Yes.
Madam Moderator.
There's a motion on the floor.
I believe I heard a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Did we, talk about item number 4?
Research needed for next meeting.
Some topics along that line came up during our discussion.
Okay. Do we want to send out said message to boards, committees, and departments?
Yeah, we should do that now. Might as well get it going.
Yep, okay.
As soon as we get that final clean
Right.
version of
That's
the
number
charter,
one.
so they're looking at the most recent version.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Start
Yeah,
there.
convey that with the inquiry to them.
Yes, yes, let's make sure we have the right version of the charter available for everybody to look at. Like I said, I'm working. And unless our town clerk decides she doesn't like what I've proposed and doesn't agree that, I don't want to go into that. I think I did a thorough job of carefully reading all of the votes since the beginning to make sure that I know exactly what the charter should say. So, there is a motion on the floor to adjourn. The motion is not actually debatable, even though it sounds like we've been debating it.
Yeah, we've been sidestepping it.
So, we'll call the roll on that. Mr. Bodwin,
Aye.
Mr. Bruni,
Aye.
Ms. Correa,
Aye.
Mr. Courier,
Aye.
Mr. DeToma,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Aye.
Mr. Haddad, absent for this vote, Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Mr. Jefferson,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Malloy,
Aye.
Mr. Marr,
Aye.
Ms. Rahman. Mr. Robbins votes aye, just for the fun of it. I've always been tempted to vote no on a motion to adjourn, but I've never done it.
I have.
I do it all the time.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for
Thank you.